Senior Associate Dean and Graduate Dean in the Jindal School. And I know that many of you just yesterday watched a webinar when the world was a little bit different than it is right this moment. So we are re-recording the webinar from yesterday, which would have been July the 13th, with a new updated webinar for students to look at with regard to selecting their fall classes. So with me today, I have my esteemed colleague, Corina Cantua. She is the Director of Advising, and Corina is going to start by helping us understand these 5 course modalities that you've all heard about. Now, a modality is kind of a complicated word, so we're going to call it a mode to make it a little bit easier. So we're going to go over those modes of instruction. These are attached to your courses for the fall schedule. We're going to talk about how do you make the change in your schedule according to the modalities and some of the rules around it. And then we're going to answer a whole bunch of questions that our students had around this topic. And we encourage you to send us more questions. If we don't answer your question at the end, you can send an email to jendal@utdallas.edu. So Corina, you ready? Let's get underway and let's answer all of these students' questions about fall modes of instruction.
I'm ready. Sounds good. Thank you, Dr. Powell. So I also like to welcome you to this webinar. We definitely want to make sure that we provide you all the details about the course modes for fall 2020. So with that, let's just go to our next slide and get started. So what is available in fall 2020? So UTD is going to have 5 different modes of learning available. The modes outline for you how the courses will be taught, either in the classroom, online, or through a combination of the two. One of the important things to note is that regardless of the mode that the course is being offered, which I'm going to actually explain all the modes in the next slides, you do have to remember that all of the courses do offer an asynchronous access. So for those of you who are unable to attend during the assigned class times, I will also provide a little bit more clarification about what asynchronous access means within this presentation. And then the other note is, as you're watching this webinar, there's going to be a lot of information, as Dr. Powell mentioned, regarding the course modes, but you don't have to necessarily take all these notes while you're watching. All of this information that we're going to cover is available online, and I'm also going to show you exactly how to get to it so that you can review it, take a little bit more time to understand it. All right. Okay, so then let's go ahead and get started with our first course mode, which is traditional. So what does it mean when a course mode is traditional? So this means that the course will be taught face-to-face in the classroom and with instructor and students meeting according to the schedule of the course. So let's say a course meets on Mondays at 10 a.m. If it is taught in a traditional course mode, that means that you will be attending class on Mondays at 10 a.m. So, and then I wanted to let you know, so on each of these course modes, as I explained them, you'll see this infographic on the left-hand side of the slide, and it kind of summarizes the specific definition of that course mode. Once I finish going through all of the course modes, I'm going to show you an infographic that includes all of them, that's going to let you see them right next to each other to better understand the differences between them. And that's also an infographic that's available online. So that's going to help you kind of refer back to it and then remember what all these course modes are about. All right, so now let's go to our second course mode on the next slide, which is blended or hybrid. So for the blended course mode, there will be a combination of online and face-to-face meetings. The course will have predetermined days when it will meet face-to-face and set days when it will meet online. For either of those, you will be attending the course during its assigned day and time. Even on the days that are online, you will be attending the course by joining the lecture virtually during the course's meeting day and time. Okay, so it is a combination, but it has predetermined days and when you will be joining the class. All right, now let's go on to our third course mode, which is flexible, or also known as high flex. So the flexible course mode is also a combination of online activity along with face-to-face. However, this will involve a student group rotation model, which will allow students to select days they will attend the course face-to-face and days that they will attend the course virtually. So it's similar to the blended that we just talked about, but it includes a student group rotation. The instructor is still going to teach the class from the classroom during each of its scheduled meeting days, but the group joining him physically in the room is going to rotate. So then that means that for you as a student, if you're enrolled in this flexible course mode, you would not be going to class every day that it's scheduled. You would be on a rotation. There is a little bit more of what you need to do if you're enrolled in a flexible, because you do need to select a day in Orion of when you plan to be on campus for that rotation. But I'm going to give you a little bit more of that information a little bit further down in the presentation. All right, now let's go to our fourth course mode, which is remote. So the remote course mode will not meet in the classroom, but rather it will be completed at a distance. The instructor will be teaching during the scheduled meeting day and time, and the students will be joining in during that time, but all will be online. So that if you look on the left-hand side of this slide, in the summary of the courses, you'll see that some of the check marks that we had seen in the previous course modes are now excess, because that indicates, for example, that this particular course mode will not have a classroom on campus assigned to it, and that students and faculty are not present in person in that class. Okay, so now it is still offered during the class time, the day and time scheduled, but it is going to be remotely. So it's going to be remote. All right, so now let's go to our last course mode, which is on the next slide. Thank you. So online. So the online course mode means that all instruction will be online. Now, this, you can tell which ones are online course mode based on the section number. And I have some examples on there. All of the section numbers for these online course mode courses will have that W. So OW1, OW2, OW3. That's how you know that it's an online course mode. Now, there is a difference between this and the remote course mode. And you'll see that on the left-hand side of your slide, we have an additional X, which is at the very top where it says assigned a class time, and there's an X there. So then for this course mode, there's not an actual class time assigned to it. It is by default being taught asynchronously. All right, so now let's go to our next slide. And as I mentioned earlier, this one has a summary of all these course modes. So we went through 5 of them. And what this does, it allows you to easily see the difference between all of them by looking at them together, right? And then at the bottom of the slide, you'll see some notes. On the infographic, you'll see some notes, and they provide additional details about it. I find that this is pretty useful. Once you kind of get comfortable with the definition of each course mode, this becomes a very useful tool to go back to find the differences between the course mode, which then, become your options for your fall 2020 courses. All right, so if you go to the next slide, I want to talk about what is happening now. So for fall 2020, the courses, this entire fall 2020 schedule is being reviewed, and all the courses are being updated to reflect their assigned course modes. You may already notice, if you're registered in courses already, that some of your courses have already been assigned a course mode. That is something that you would be able to see in Orion, and you're actually also able to see it in Coursebook, and I'll show you very soon how you can do that. But if you, some of them are not assigned yet, and for those, what you'll actually see in the system is that it says pending. So as you're looking at your classes, either because you're already registered and you're looking at the courses you're enrolled in, or you're searching for classes to register in, you just have to look for the course mode, and you'll see that either it has been assigned or it's still pending. So let's take a look in Orion of how that looks like. So in Orion, there's online, as I mentioned previously, a lot of this information, actually all of this information is available online. And so this is one of those where you can find it online. But really all you need to do is when you look at your class schedule is you go to the section number, and you have to click on that section number to then open up the details, whereas where you're going to find the course mode of that course. So let's go ahead and click on that 501, which takes us to our next slide. So this is the course information for this particular example, and you'll see that red arrow at the bottom. It shows that this particular class, at least when I did the snapshot of this class, it had not been assigned a course mode yet. So you see that it says pending instruction update. So that would be one of the courses that you would still be waiting for an update on what course mode it would offer. All right, now let's go to the next slide. And let's see an example of a course that actually has been assigned a course mode. So this particular course, again, you'll see towards the bottom where it says class attribute, the red arrow that's closest to the right, it points to remote virtual learning. So that means that this particular course has been assigned a remote course mode. Now you will also notice, which is the arrow that's closest to the left, that it retained its meeting day and time. So this course meets on Tuesdays, 1 to 3:45. That means that even though it's being held remotely, it will still be meeting remotely Tuesday, 1 to 3:45, and you will still be joining this class during that day and time. You just will not be doing it by going to the campus. All right. Okay, so now let's look at the next slide because I want to show you what the course mode looks like in Coursebook. Now, I know that the examples on this slide are undergraduate courses, but I wanted to show you just the difference on how the course mode comes up in Coursebook. So if you look at the ones that do not have any arrows pointing to them, so the second and the last one, you see that it's noted as pending. So those are courses that do not have an assigned course mode yet. So you'll be very easily be able to see that it's pending. And then the ones that already have a course mode assigned in the same location, instead of seeing pending, what you see is online, which is the first one at the top. And the other thing you'll notice with that one, as I mentioned, is that it has that W in the section, right? It's OW1. That's the section number, and that's how you can also tell that it's an online course mode. So the third one that's listed there is actually assigned a course mode of remote, and that's what you see within right below the course name. So that's how you would view it in Coursebook. All right, so now that you have all this information, what do you need to do? So let's go to our next slide. So if you already registered in courses, for those courses that do not have an assigned course mode yet, you will get a communication from the Office of the Registrar with information of that change. So one of the things you need to do is make sure that you monitor your email and look for that email that tells you that the course mode has been assigned. It will be sent by records@utdallas.edu, and the subject that you're looking for is Fall 2020 Instruction Mode Update. So that's going to be the way that you know, okay, the class that I have has now been assigned a course mode. And then if you need to make any changes based on that information on the course mode, you still can. You just have to make sure that you make those changes by the deadlines on the academic calendar. That is not different from any other semester and registration deadlines, so just be mindful of those deadlines. All right, so now let's go to the next slide, because what if you have not registered yet, or you're still looking for additional courses to add to your schedule? You can still look at those course modes either in Orion by searching individual classes, or if you want to maybe see a more general look, you can definitely do that in Coursebook and look and see what the course modes are, or look and see if maybe some of those courses still have pending for their course mode. In the same way, once you decide, okay, I think this is the class that I want to register in for the fall, you need to just register by the deadlines on the academic calendar. All right, so now let's go to the next slide. So I mentioned about the flexible mode, that there is an additional action you do have to take if you are enrolled in a class that is assigned the flexible mode. That means that you have to go into Orion and select the day that you want to be attending that class on campus. There is a cap on how many students can attend each of the assigned days. So as soon as you get that notification via email, I would encourage you to go ahead and log into Orion and select the day. The step-by-step instructions are going to be within that email. They'll send you a link, and then you'll be able to go online, and it will show you exactly step-by-step how you select a day. Now, that day is going to be the day that you can be attending the class on campus. If you actually do not make any selection for this flexible course mode, if you're registered in a flexible course mode, then that means that it's going to default as online. And if it defaults as online, that means that you're not able to attend the class in person. So it's important for you to select a day so that you can get a chance to be on campus on that day. All righty, so now let's go to the next slide. So accessing your course. So all online courses are built with pre-recorded lectures, which you will be able to access through e-learning. If you're a continuing student, you're probably already familiar with accessing course information through e-learning. And if you're just joining us this fall, don't worry, it's not a hard thing to figure out. It's just a location where all the content of the course is, and you will log into it with your NetID and password, just like you use for all of the other systems at UTD, and it's very accessible. So just be aware that anything that's an online course mode, you will be able to see the content via e-learning. Then for the other course modes, you should attend class regularly on the scheduled times. So the faculty may be taking attendance for each of those classes in those 4 course modes. And if you're not going to be able to do so, you're not going to be able to attend at the regularly scheduled class, you do need to let them know that you're going to be doing it asynchronously. Which takes us to our next slide, because we definitely want to talk about what asynchronous means. So what does that mean? What does asynchronous mean? So it means you're not participating in the course at the same time that it's being taught. At any time during the fall semester, you have the option asynchronously, not at the same time as a course being taught. So in the last sentence on this slide, you'll notice that it says that course mode it applies to are the 4, except for the online course mode. Now, the only reason the online course mode is not listed in that last sentence is that by default, the online course mode is already asynchronous. So that's just by default. So it doesn't have to be included in this, but know that all of the course modes are asynchronous access or offer an asynchronous access. All right, so next question regarding asynchronous. If I choose asynchronous access, is it self-paced, on my own time and pace? No. So asynchronous does not mean that you can complete the course and its requirements at your own pace. Even though you're not meeting at the time of the class, you're still required to meet the same course standards as other students. The instructor will provide the information regarding the course's requirements and standards, and you will also see it within the syllabus of the course. All right, so it's not at your own pace. All right, next slide. Why would I choose asynchronous access? So there are several reasons why you may choose this. It could be because you're unable to leave home to participate in the class or be on campus. It could be because you may be high risk. So then you want to be safe and not go to campus. You want to stay home. There may be some of you who cannot commit to the class at its scheduled time, or maybe you're able to join us for the first few weeks of the semester, but then things change and you're unable to do it for the remainder of the semester. You know, this slide has different reasons of why it could be that you could not attend asynchronous, but during this uncertain time, you know, we don't know what may come up. So we definitely want to be flexible and give you the option of being able to complete your courses through asynchronous access. All right, so now let's say you have decided you want to do asynchronous. So on the next slide, we have the question, how do I choose asynchronous access? So if you know already that you're going to join the classes asynchronously, you can let your instructor know. It's definitely important to let them know, but you do not have to do it right now, today or tomorrow. You actually would let your instructor know that you're going to be attending asynchronously from the beginning of the semester. So the first day of class is Monday, August 17th. So on that day or shortly after, you should let your instructor know that you're going to access the class asynchronously. Now, between now and August 17th, you may still be adjusting your schedule. So then that's why we don't need to notify your instructors that you're going to do asynchronous access, because they may not end up being the instructors that you keep or the classes that you keep by the time the semester begins. All right, so no rush on this, but do put it on your calendar because it is important for you to let them know once classes begin that you will be doing asynchronous access. All right, so now let's go to our next slide, because what I promised when we started this presentation is I was going to show you where all of this information is located. Every single slide contained information that is already available to you online. So let me show you how to get to it. If you just go to utdallas.edu, on the right-hand side of the screen, you'll see the COVID-19 updates. So if you click there, it'll take us to a page on the next slide. Perfect. So that's what it comes up. You just need to click on Fall 2020 Registration Information page. Once you do that, you're going to see the infographic on the different 5 course modes. You're going to see a definition. Basically, everything that I covered in this presentation is going to be accessible to you on this webpage. All right, and with that, I am done with the information. We can move on to the questions.
Wow, Corina, you had a lot to say. And I know that for our students who watch this webinar, this kind of information can be really overwhelming. So this webinar is intended to answer questions of new incoming students who are going to be joining us virtually from their home countries around the world. This is also information that is also useful to our continuing current students, both our domestic local students and our continuing international students. So as many of you know, especially of our international students, there was a ruling today where the policy order by the Homeland Security that was passed on July 6th was rescinded. So many of the questions that our continuing international students had about enrolling are now really moot questions. Our students are able to enroll in all the course modalities, and all of them are going to be fine with regard to your visa status. So this is really good news. So I think one thing we need to do is kind of jump into questions to kind of help with the clarification of what Corina's gone over, because this is complicated. And I think you have to look at it a few times and really think about it. And then all of a sudden it'll all start to make sense. So Norma Rodriguez, who is one of our wonderful colleagues, she's our behind the scenes producer of all of our webinars. I am betting that Norma Rodriguez has questions for us. So Norma, why don't you throw the questions this way and let's see if Corina and I can answer them.
Perfect. Will there be any difference in tuition or fees with the various course modes?
So that's a great question. So the only course that you, or mode of instruction that you take that has a fee associated with it is a course that has a section number of W. There's a W in there, like OW1, OW2, OW3. That course has been produced to be a fully online class, which means that we've used instructional designers, we've used a lot of technology. That course was produced to be an online class with an online distance education fee. So if you're in an OW1 class, there is a fee associated with that course versus the other 4, traditional face-to-face, hybrid, flexible or high flex, or remote. There are not additional fees associated with those classes.
Will the tuition due date be extended since the course modes are still being finalized?
So the most recent news that I have right now at 5:16 p.m. on the 14th of July is that we have been told that they believe all of the modes will be in the system by the last week of July. So that gives students between now and the first day of classes to kind of figure out what your classes are, but tuition is going to still be due on the 13th of August. And you'll see that on the official academic calendar that's in front of you. This academic calendar is available to you. You can always go to the search box at utdallas.edu, put in academic calendar, and you'll find the academic calendar that you can look at. You really should download one of these calendars and keep them handy because they're really important. There's one thing that is unique on this calendar from other years, and that is look at the last day of classes. It's November the 25th. In prior years, we would have come back for a couple of days of classes and then had finals. But due to the coronavirus, COVID-19, we are not coming back after Thanksgiving, and therefore all finals are going to be administered online.
So I think you mentioned this earlier, but when will all the course modes be finalized by the registrar?
So they're saying they hope the 24th, 25th, 26th of July. They are moving very quickly. In fact, if you go out and look at Coursebook right now, you're going to see a lot of courses have already been moved to remote, and they're starting to put on new modalities on the other ones as well. So the challenge for the registrar is that once, she didn't have to do anything to the online classes. They were always online. The OW1s and OW2s, they were always online. So they stayed on the schedule as normal. And if you've enrolled in an OW1 class and you were enrolled in it before this even happened, you won't get an email from the registrar's office. But if the course that you're enrolled in changes its mode of instruction, then you will get that email as soon as the registrar's office changes that mode. So you're going to go in every day and start to see more of these modes assigned to the courses. So you may have to drop an ad a few times before you get the course offerings that you want for this fall. It's not going to be like you can log in once and do it all, because as Corina said, you can log in right now and you'll see many of them will say pending. That means that a course mode has not been assigned yet. So you'll want to come back and see what mode is assigned to that class. And we can't simply do it like that, where we can get them all done at one time. It takes a lot of time. The Jindal School alone has over 800 sections that are being taught this fall. So can you imagine that times 8? Because there are 7 other schools at the university. It takes a lot for the registrar's office to plow through all of this. So we just ask for your patience as they're doing this.
How will exams be handled in the various course modes? Will I have to go to the testing center?
So that's a great question. And one I wish I had some magic fairy dust that I could sprinkle so that I could give exactly the right answer that the faculty and students want. At this moment, we don't believe that the testing center will be open, although that is not absolute. That could change after the date of this webinar. If you are in a traditional class, then it is somewhat likely that your exams would take place in that class. But if you're in any of the other modes, they are likely going to take place online. So you should expect your exams to go through the e-learning process where you're taking them as you've taken them before. But so it's probably only face-to-face it'll be actually a face-to-face exam, but all finals are scheduled to be online.
How will attendance be handled if you're participating asynchronously?
Well, the faculty, I imagine that as we get closer to fall, it could be that courses where there was participation, maybe the faculty will eliminate that. But if the faculty member does include participation and grades on participation, then he has to give those students who are choosing to do it asynchronously the opportunity to participate as well. So one way a faculty might do that, if they are going to include participation, is maybe they will just schedule a discussion board where everybody will go to an online discussion board and have engagement there. And then that way the faculty member can keep up with the participation. But you're going to need to look very closely at the syllabus of any course that you enroll in this fall. Don't make the assumption that every course is going to be done and delivered and designed in exactly the same way. Every faculty member has academic freedom to kind of put that course together the way that they choose. So you may have one remote class that works completely different than another remote class. The one thing you can be certain of is that there will be class instruction at the day and time of the class, but how the faculty members deliver those remote classes could be very different. So you want to take time before the first day of the semester, as soon as those syllabi are posted, you want to look at every single syllabi and make sure you understand, where am I going for course materials? Where am I going if I'm going to listen to lectures or recorded lectures? Where am I going to get the information if I'm attending class asynchronously and I'm enrolled in a face-to-face class? All of that information is going to be in your syllabus. And so you want to make sure that you don't just give it a cursory read like you might do in a regular semester. You want to get it a careful read this time.
As a continuing international student, which course modes should I select to maintain my visa status?
So this is the good news that just came down today. And I want to repeat the day again so that we can put this webinar in context. This is the 14th of July and it's 5:22 p.m. Central Standard Time. And as of earlier this afternoon, the Trump administration rescinded the policy that Homeland Security had set on July the 6th. And so now students will be able to take any of these courses that you see on the screen and remain in status. That's really good news for our continuing international students. And for our students who are joining us virtually, who have the virtual visa. And I just want to encourage you, if you are going to be joining us as a new student from your home country, be sure to declare that virtual status so that the university knows you'll be joining us virtually. And then you can enroll in the classes the same way as all of our regular students do.
As a continuing international student, how many online courses can I take?
Well, at this moment, if you go with what came out in the news just a few hours ago, you shouldn't be limited by the number of online classes. So you should be fine to enroll in more than one.
What services will be open in the fall? For example, will the Business Communication Center be open, the library, the gym?
Well, it is our goal. Classes will be happening. Students will be on campus. Faculty will be on campus. We do not yet know about which of the resources are going to be open and which of them are going to be closed. It is the goal of Dean Percool, your dean, to get our big lab open, our computer lab open in the school for students to access it. It is also the goal of the dean for us to be able to open up our tutoring lab so students can get help. But remember, in every context on campus this fall, we have to follow very strict social distancing protocol. Every student has to be in a mask all the time. We have to limit the number of students that are in a restroom at one time. So you want to keep that in mind. We haven't worked through all of those details yet, but as soon as we have those details, we'll be sure to communicate those to students. Now, for those of you that want to use the library, I use a library all the time, except I never go in it. I use all of the electronic resources that the library has to offer. So those are available to you as well. Now, I don't know yet about the recreation center, the student union, places like that. But as soon as we have that kind of information about those resources, we will make that known to all of our continuing students and our students who are here on campus.
Will there be any reduction in fees for the services we are not using or not able to use, like the recreation center and things like that?
I have heard from the administration that at this time, there's no elimination of those fees. So that's what I happen to know at this time, that those fees will exist as they always have.
Will there be in-person workshops or career fairs this fall?
Oh, I'm so glad somebody asked that question. Everything is going to be virtual this fall. So you need an advisor, you can get them virtually. You need a career fair. We're going to be doing everything in the Career Management Center is going to have virtual access. In fact, many of the employers, practically all of the employers, have the same social distancing concerns that you do as a student and our faculty do, and just generally speaking, American citizens have. And I'm sure for folks in your home countries as well. So employers are very excited that they can do all the things that they can do without having to come to actually see us. So there are going to be a ton of virtual engagement, employer-driven events for students to network with employers, ask questions of employers, participate in, interviews and mock interviews and sessions on how to improve your resume. All of that will be made available virtually this fall by our Career Management Center. They've been working like crazy in the last few weeks. The other aspect of the student's experience, which is really important at the Jindal School, is the student organization experience. We have 70 plus student organizations in the school. And I think it's one of the really unique qualities about our school that make us really special, because the energy of our students drive the success of our student organizations. Those organizations are going to go on as planned. Those faculty advisors are being instructed to make sure that every single experience is available virtually for our new students who might be in Vietnam or in Australia or in France. We want those students who are not here to be able to participate. We want those students who are staying at home because they aren't comfortable being out with regard to COVID-19, so they can participate. We don't really think there'll be a lot of student org events. If there are, we have to follow university policy. There has been some statements that we can't have groups over 10. But then if we did have an event, we'd be limited in terms of capacity based on social distancing in a room. So we might be in a room that seats 120 people, but we would probably be limited to about 30 in that room. So that's going to make doing face-to-face kinds of things pretty difficult this fall. But there is going to be a robust experience in a virtual setting for students. Now, I'm going to challenge every student who's listening to this webinar. How good all of this is dependent upon how much you engage it. So get involved. Don't be complacent. Don't just sit back on the other side of your computer screen and not be an active member in the Jindal School this fall. We need you to be active as well. So we're asking you to do your part too.
Will work from home internships or remote internships be considered face-to-face?
Yes, all internships, students don't generally know this, but if you're in an internship, it's always considered a face-to-face class every time. And I know that the university has been very supportive of virtual internships. We've had a ton of students who have done virtual internships, so they work for their employer from their home. And that is also happening. So yes, those are face-to-face and they can be done.
As a continuing student, if I am enrolled in an internship, can I take a reduced course load or take the rest of my courses online?
So I'm going to toss this one over to Corina so that she can attack this one, because there's some special nuances with regard to answering this question. And so I'm going to leave it to the experts.
Sure. Yes. So for these type of questions, a lot of times what we'd like to do is refer the student to the International Student Services Office, just to make sure that we don't, confuse the student or provide any information that's incorrect. The International Student Services Office are the ones who would be able to answer that. But just in general, what we have seen is that students who do have an internship that covers the entire semester, they usually can be enrolled in maybe just that internship or have courses in addition to the internship that are in the online or the online course mode, as we call it. But there are some factors of a student, if they have done internships before, or if it's their graduating semester. So there's some factors that would impact that answer. So we just want to be careful, and we want to make sure that International Student Services Office are the ones who can let the student know the real answer for their specific situation.
Now, I do want to bring up something, and Corina, thank you for that clarification. So we encourage you to reach out to the ISSO to get clarification because they're the experts in this area. So please do that if you have those kind of specific questions. If you are a continuing international student, you were here, you started last fall, and you're continuing on this fall, and you were thinking about, going back to your home country, you do want to be mindful, because if you leave and go home, you'll lose your F1 status. And if you're near your graduating semester, you can't apply for OPT if you're outside of the country. So these are things that you want to keep in mind. And then also the reality of getting another visa to get back in the US. So these are things that you should be thinking about. Now that the Trump administration's policy has been rescinded, staying here is certainly much easier. And with that decision, students are protected in the courses that they're enrolled in, so there won't be any difficulties with regard to staying in status. So just remember, if you're having those questions around visas, reach out to the ISSO. If you're a current student and you have questions, it's ISSO current@utdallas.edu. And if you're a virtual student attending this fall from your home country, then that would be ISSO perspective@utdallas.edu, and they'll answer questions. They are a little bit snowed under right now with regard to trying to get new visas, new I-20s out. So be a little patient with them and them answering you back.
So this touches a little bit on what you just mentioned about traveling. If I choose one of the course modes that are considered face-to-face and choose the asynchronous option, can I travel to my home country or out of the state during the semester?
I would be I'm sure you could be anywhere in the United States and you're going to be in status. Being outside of the country, I don't want to presume to know the answer to that question, but if you leave the country, you'll lose your F1 status. So you really need to communicate with the ISSO about whether or not you should make that decision to leave the country. Once you're in another country, you can be enrolled in what classes you're in because you're no longer an F1 student in F1 status. But I think you want to be very cautious about the implications of leaving the United States and what that might mean going forward.
If the instruction mode is currently pending, but the class section number does not have an OW in it, can we assume that it will be one of the other 4 modes, like traditional, blended hybrid, flexible, or remote virtual?
Wow, we got some smart students asking tough questions. You know, it's hard to say. That's probably a good guess if you were sitting at the poker table and you were wanting to make a bet. It's very easy. Remember, when all of our course sections were sent over to the registrar, they didn't have to touch the online classes. All of the remote classes, they could easily assign remote to and then get rid of their room and locations. And that would free up all of the classroom space to move all these other courses around. I would assume the reason that you haven't seen face-to-face, hybrid, or HyFlex yet is because it takes time. So there's a pretty good chance that they are going to be one of those 3. I can't guarantee that because circumstances are also changing for faculty at this moment. And we've had faculty who were remote that are now going traditional. And we have faculty who were traditional that are now going remote or HyFlex or something else. So the schedule is kind of in constant flux right now.
If my classes are already classified as remote or online, is it possible for the course mode to change again before fall?
It could. Again, there could be some circumstances that might result in a remote, an online class, an OW1, OW2, OW3 class. Those are not going to change. Those were designed and put on the schedule as an online class. So those will remain the same. Any of the other modalities could change. I don't think it's highly likely that a remote might change, but I do know that there have been a couple of faculty in the last week who decided that they wanted to do a face-to-face class over remote. So it is technically possible that it can change. You know, Norma, that reminds me that I do want to make a note to any students that are enrolled in cohort programs, like the business analytics cohort, the accounting cohort, the finance cohort, the MBA daytime and evening cohort. In those programs, your courses and your sections are chosen by the program. So the conversation around what your modality should be is really rather moot because those modalities have been set by the program. So you should talk to your program leadership about what the modalities are for those courses. You're going to still see them on the course lookup. If you know what courses they've scheduled you in, you'll be able to see whether they're face-to-face or remote. So I just wanted to point that out because we didn't mention that we probably have cohort students that are listening to this.
If I choose the asynchronous option, can I change to synchronous later in the semester?
So Corina, correct me if I'm wrong, but the university stated that a student has a choice to move to asynchronous at any time. Is that not correct?
That is correct. The only one that I think that you may want to select a day for is the flexible mode, the flexible course mode, because it does require that you select a day. So if you don't select a day, then by the default is online. And I'm not sure if it's going to be possible for you to mid-semester go back in and choose it. It has to be done by the deadline of the registration. So, so I would say if you think at any time that you would want to be on campus, then go ahead and select it from the start.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I think the reverse of that point is at any time a student can choose to be asynchronous. So if you're in the flexible mode and you chose the day you wanted to attend class, but your personal circumstances change that result in your inability to come to class, you could change it to asynchronous. You can change any of these to asynchronous at any time, but you need to be proactive. You need to communicate that with your faculty member. They need to know what choice it is that you're making. They don't need to know why, but they do need to know that you're not going to be present in class especially if you're in this traditional blended and flexible, and even in remote. Because remember, in a remote class, you guys, you are technically still going to class on Thursday at 10, if that class is scheduled Thursday at 10. So you would still want to know that, let the professor know that you're not going to be present on Thursday at 10. You're going to be watching it asynchronously. I don't think we've mentioned to all of the students just how the university is planning to do all of this. Well, we're putting webcams in all the classrooms. So when a faculty member is in a classroom, they're going to be recording what's going on so that those students who are attending asynchronously can get a link to that video and have that content.
Will the faculty reach out to me to ask if I'm attending asynchronously, or do I need to let the faculty member know?
Corina, I'm gonna let you take that one.
So the student should be the one reaching out to the faculty, because they're the ones who know whether they can be attending the class. For those that are allowed for you to attend the class in person, you would be the one to know what your circumstances are. So you would be the one to contact the faculty and let them know if it's going to be asynchronous access.
Can I be on the wait list for a traditional or blended or flexible course option while being enrolled in the remote or online version of that same course?
These creative students. Corina, you want to take that one too?
Sure. Yeah. So there is a policy that does not allow you to be waitlisted and enrolled in the same class. So you would not be able to do that. And then also, even if you could, the system does not register you in the class that you already have. So it does not double enroll you in the same course. So even if you could be on that wait list, the system would never actually be able to register you. So that's not a possibility.
And one other thing to mention that we just haven't covered in the questions yet is that you can be enrolled, a student can be enrolled. Now, if you're in a cohort program, it's different, but a student can be enrolled in up to 18 credit hours allowed by the catalog. So that is possible for you to add more classes to your schedule. Now, would I ever recommend that a graduate student do that? No, because that is an enormous load. And for our students who might be coming in as new international students and you are staying in your home countries and you've decided you're going to save on your rent and live with mama and keep your job for a while longer, you don't want to overflow with your classes, because we do have strict requirements about academic performance and staying off probation. You have to complete the semester with a cumulative grade point average of a 3.0 and above in order to be in good academic standing. So we don't want you to go hog wild on courses and then find yourself in a difficult academic probation situation that is more difficult to get out of.
Is it possible that new sections or courses will be added prior to fall?
Well, that has been possible in every fall for as long as I've been at the Jindal School. Yeah, we're going to look very carefully at where there are heavy wait lists. The dean has always done that. And Corina will tell you, because she's been the one that's been out there trying to get those new sections added. But if we have a lot of people that are on a wait list, I know the dean is going to look at that very carefully and look at adding additional sections of courses in order to accommodate student demand.
Will each course that's offered be offered in all 5 course modes?
No, it won't. I wish that was the case. But remember, while we're giving students the ability to decide if they want to participate asynchronously, if they feel comfortable being on campus, faculty also have that same consideration as well. So it could be that there's 10 sections of a course that are out there and they might all be in exactly the same mode. That could happen. We hope that there's enough variety, but there's no guarantee. It is what it is based on the coursebook schedule.
What actions do I need to take if I registered prior to these changes? How can I adjust my schedule, and where do I go to adjust my schedule?
So Corina, you want to take that away?
Sure. Sure. So if you've already registered or you're looking to register, you do need to go to Galaxy. This is just utdallas.edu, and you'll find the Galaxy button right at the top right corner. You're going to log in with your net ID and password, just like maybe you do for your email. All of the UTD systems work with your net ID and password. So once you do that, if you go to the next slide, Norma, you'll see these tiles. And as an applicant, you probably have already seen these tiles. They were very similar. They just had different content within them. Now, as an active student, you have new ones, which includes Manage My Classes, which is ultimately the place that you want to go to register. But we can quickly just visit a couple more tiles to kind of give you information on them. So let's go to the next slide. that has your academics. So if you're a continuing student and you go to My Academics, you would already be able to see your classes, grades. You can even get an unofficial transcript through this tile. If you're a new student, what's going to happen is once you start completing your courses, this is going to be a tile that you could come to kind of get a look at what you've already accomplished and the grades, and again, the unofficial transcript within this tile as well. The next one that I want to show you is the tasks tile. This one's where you can see any holds or checklist items or to-do actions that you are required to complete. These are the way that we can communicate with you whenever there's an action that's required on your end. A lot of times these holds could prevent registration. So if you are a continuing student or a new student who has a hold and you're unsure of what to do to release it, let us know. You can contact us at jsomgradvising@utdallas.edu, and we can kind of help you out, figure it out. And then we could go to the next one, which is the Manage My Classes tile. So this is the tile that you want to click on and go into to actually adjust your schedule. If it's the first class, you'll see that one of the options within this tile is Add Class. Or if you want to change what you already have, you can definitely go in and swap or drop. And then you can also even do your class search to even find the course mode for those classes within the same tile.
I don't know, that sounded like a little bit like a rap song. Add, swap, drop.
Yeah.
It's a mouthful. Norma?
Those are all the questions that I had.
Wow. Well, this is a lot of information for all of you. So for all of our new incoming students who plan to be virtual in their home country, don't forget to do the FV so that you have that. You do that through the iComment form. So please be sure to do that and then enroll in the classes. Be mindful of when the tuition is due. For all of our continuing and current students, and especially now that we have the resolution of the Trump administration's policy being rescinded, now all of you can kind of confirm your class schedule for fall so that you can get on with the big plans that you have for your career and your journey post degree completion. So I want to just reassure all of you that if you have questions, please don't hesitate to ask them. We really want to be helpful. We want to be available. You can do that by sending emails to jendal@utdallas.edu, and we'll get answers right back to you. You can also schedule time with an advisor at jsomgradvising@utdallas.edu, and we encourage you to reach out to your program directors. All of you who are current students know how fabulous our program directors are, and all of you that are brand new students, you're going to find out how awesome they are. But they, along with their program managers, their academic support coordinators, people that you've met through the recruiting and admissions process, any and all of us can help you with questions that you might have about these complicated topics. And in the meantime, as we get more information, we'll do more webinars. We'll get them out to you as quickly as we can so that you have that information at your fingertips and at your convenience. And in the meantime, we just ask everyone to just really be safe, be well, be healthy, take care of each other. And remember that you can always get this information. If you don't have time to listen to the webinar or look at the PowerPoint, you can look at your screen and you can see exactly where you can get this information on the UT Dallas website. So we wish you the very best. Corina, thank you. Norma, thank you. And we look forward to actually getting to see all of you in 3 dimensions at some time in the future. But in the meantime, everybody be safe and be well.